good? Good evening and welcome to the Town of Buxton's May 21st, 2025 Selectmen Meeting. First order of business is to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of prior meeting minutes for May 14th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? That's 4 with 1 absent. Discussions held between 4 and 7. At 5 o'clock, we had a resident come in, talked to him for quite a while about the Saco River Dam that's going to be taken down, and we're looking for members for a committee to be involved with Hollis. And this gentleman lives on the river, so he's going to be part of it. At 6 o'clock, we had some residents come in that had some concerns about a subdivision that they were doing, and we just talked to them about it, told them what their options would be and could be, and it seems like they're working through it. Projects and issues. Frank.
Not a real lot for me this week. I was in the office quite a bit, and I went over the policies that we're going to be revamping. We have a meeting next Tuesday, I believe it is, that I'm going to sit down with our assistant and our treasurer, and we're going to review the policy because there's some changes that we have to make to the insurances and some things that were done through the contracts with the PD and the fire. So we're going to have to revisit the policies. That's it.
Chad.
This week it was just involving multiple personnel issues there that I got phone calls about, and so that took up most of the time.
Mark.
Yeah, so I did attend the school budget meeting on Thursday. That passed pretty unanimously, no real controversy. So that was Thursday night. I did spend some time speaking to the DEP Commissioner, Melanie Loisen, about some ideas that we had about the trash here at the transfer station to see if that's something that would be feasible. Also spent some time talking to Pete LaChapelle, was his name, with Waste Management down in Rochester, trying to float some of the ideas that I was considering to see what his thoughts were. So I spent some time with that. Also spent some time with Bill, discussing the potential of the town creating its own paid family leave for the state is requiring us, and we can administer our own if we'd like, and I think that's the direction we're going to go. We're going to administer our own so we can pay into our own paid family leave for our employees. And I did speak to every department head this week. We did have some personnel issues, but just to see how things are going throughout the town. And everything seems pretty good right now and quiet, so it was a good thing. That's it.
I was in a couple days last week. As everybody said, we had a couple personnel issues that we had to take care of, and feel that we have those under control. On Saturday, we had a cleanup day down Pleasant Point. We had a chipper, did some chipping. The 2 trustees, Mark and Donna, were down there, the 3 of us, and we worked 3/4 of the day and got a lot done. That was about it for me. Old business. The lights did get fixed on Monday in the parking lot. Energize Me was here and they fixed the lights finally. New business, anybody? Any new business? Voting will be June 10th, 2025, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Town meeting will be June 14th, 2025, at 9 a.m. The town report dedication will be June 4th at 6 p.m. here. Anything else, anybody? Executive orders. Executive order 24250451, an order approving 10 hours of vacation time for Kevin Kimball.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? That's 4 with 1 absent. Executive order 24250452, an order to appoint Dora Graham, Nelson, Patricia Morris, Roland Ives, Darlene Ives, William Jefferson, Dorothy Bell to the position of Democratic ballot clerk to be effective through June 10th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All that in favor? That's 4, 1 absent. Executive Order 24250453, in order to appoint Heather Rummery, Susan Garish, David Ferris, Susan Ferris, Diane Oker, Mary Spudnell to the position of Republic ballot clerk to be effective through June 10th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? That's 4 with 1 absent. Any executive orders by initiative?
None that I'm aware of.
Accounts payable and payroll warrant. Executive Order 24250454, in order to approve expenditures as documented in payroll warrant 93.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? That's 4 with 1 absent, and that amount was $101,653.50. Executive Order 24250455, in order approving expenditures as documented in Accounts Payable 94.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? That's 4 with 1 absent, and that amount was $55,207.03. Next meeting of the boards. The next selectmen meeting will be Wednesday, May 28th, 2025 at 7 p.m. The next planning board meeting will be held Tuesday, May 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. And that's going to be Tuesday instead of Monday because of the holiday. Any other business?
Bill.
Yeah. Our treasurer would like to speak with us. Or we would like him to speak to us.
So I was asked by the board to come up and give a brief description of where we are and how we got to where we are with the with some of the trash concerns. So in 1985, there was a bunch of towns that created a consortium. It was called Tri-County Solid Waste Group. In those towns, it was Buxton, North Berwick, Sanford, South Berwick, Acton, Shapley, Cornish, Kennebunkport, Dayton, OOB, and Kennebunk. So in 1985, they got together, they formed this group in 1988, and since then, all of those towns were part of a group that was used to negotiate disposal of town's trash. What happened was that during this current year, when the contract was up, which ends on June 30th, 2025, the group decided to disband. What happened was that they couldn't come together anymore on where they wanted to go with their trash and who they wanted to have service them. It was a pretty equal split on what each town wanted to do. So in January of 2025, myself, Greg Heffernan, the board, We started meeting regularly to start, trying to come up with a plan for the town of Buxton on what we need to do with disposing of our trash. They met with EcoMaine, Casella, and Waste Management. Some of them we met a couple times. We also had a phone conversation with Wind Waste in Triano. So what happened was, these three organizations came in, they had, meetings with the board, they gave us proposals, they talked about their organizations, they also talked about what they can offer the town of Buxton. So in short, what the town did was, is there's an article in June 14th's annual town meeting, I believe it's Article 36, I have it in front of me. Yep, Article 36. And this is how this reads. Shall the town of Buxton, 1, authorize the selectmen to enter into agreements with EcoMaine for the purpose of operating a solid waste disposal and management program for the town, including the addendum to EcoMaine interlocal solid waste agreement, joinder agreement, and waste handling and recycling agreement. 2, authorize the town treasurer and the chairman of the selectmen to issue general obligation securities of the town in the form of a promissory note in the amount not to exceed $1,215,345 for buying an amount that represents a capital contribution to EcoMaine and appropriate such amount for the purpose. And 3, delegate the treasurer and the chairman of the selectmen the authority and the discretion to fix the date, maturities, denomination, interest rates, place of payment, form, and other details of the securities, and providing the sale of the securities. There's also some other information included in this article that talks about where we are currently with how much debt we have, and then it also discloses what the note would look like. So what this article is asking you is, so EcoMaine's been a consortium, and when I say consortium, there's 82 communities that currently deal with EcoMaine. 27 of those communities are owners of EcoMaine, and 55 are contracts. An owner of EcoMaine, so what EcoMaine is, it was incorporated as a nonprofit that a bunch of towns put together to manage their solid waste. Of those towns, it's Bridgeton, Cape Elizabeth, Casco, Cumberland, Falmouth, Freeport, Gorham, Gray, Harrison, Hollis, Leamington, North Yarmouth, Portland, Pownell, Scarborough, South Poland, Yarmouth, Waterboro, and Wyndham. So these organizations pretty much started EcoMaine. And what has happened over the years is that these organizations with tipping fees and other income that's come into EcoMaine have built a reserve balance in EcoMaine. And for new communities to join, which is not just Buxton, some of the organizations associated with the Tri-County Solid Waste are also joining. You have to buy in, meaning that you're going to, over a 30-year period, you're going to, depending on which town you are, pay in a certain amount of money to join this organization. And the reason for that is that, they built this reserve. It wouldn't be fair for a new town to come in and have a piece of that reserve without putting in a piece of money. Hence, Buxton piece of money to put in is $1.215 million, which is pretty much based on what we have for tonnage over the last few years, or at least that's the way that was explained to us. So in this article, what you're approving is the town is allowing the selectmen to enter in this 30-year agreement to pay $42,111 over 30 years, which comes out to the 1.25, to join EcoMaine and to be a voting member of EcoMaine, meaning that they meet, I think it's quarterly, and then when they set their budget and their rates, the town of Buxton, one of the select board members would be a voted member on there. It would allow us to have a say in what EcoMaine's tipping fees are, for us and for the other member organizations.
Can you explain what tipping fees?
So what it is, we have curbside pickup with Casella, which is a current contract that doesn't end until June 30th, 2027. All that trash has to go somewhere. So what EcoMaine is, and they don't have trash trucks. What they are is they're a facility that takes the trash in, and they'll either compact it and put it in a landfill, or they'll burn it, because what they do is they burn some of it and they generate power. They do some recycling, which they'll bale up the recycling and sell to organizations that, that will use the plastic or the cardboard. So depending on what the waste is, they take it and they do what they do with it. And that's what that is. That's the disposal of our solid waste. Okay?
So just, I don't know, tipping fees are basically trash. That's what tipping fees are,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I was thinking, but I don't mean to interrupt, I've never been to a town meeting before, but my understanding was that you guys.
She should go to the mic.
Yeah, you should go to the mic.
Yeah, you should come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you repeat your question for
So,
me then?
yes, so the thing of it is my question is this going to close the transfer station? If we do that, are we not gonna have Casella anymore? And I think it's Casella or trash pickup people. And what would people do with, say, for instance, rocks, trees, shingles?
Okay, so the question is what does the transfer station look like if we go with EcoMaine, and what happens with Casella? So we are currently under contract with Casella to do curbside pickup until June 30th, 2027, okay? As for the transfer station, I don't think anybody, myself or the board, knows what the transfer station's gonna look like July 1st this year, July 1st of 2027, 28. Eco's main big thing is they'd like to see the town go to curbside recycling, meaning that, you'll have 2 bins, one for trash, one for recycling and whatnot. I've spoken to some of the board members. The price for disposal of trash to the disposal of recycling is, what was it, Mark, 15 cents difference or something like that? One was 92, one was 107, so like the difference is 15 cents. Does the town of Buxton want to be eco-friendly? I mean, that's going to be the big question. Do you want to still recycle? Or do you just want to put everything in trash and not care after? Does it matter? So to answer your question, ma'am, I don't think anybody right now knows what's going to happen to the transfer station. Can it be closed 100% all the way? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, because EcoMaine's not going to take the brush. They're not going to take shingles. They're not going to take everything that sometimes, we dump at the transfer station. So is there an option that maybe, the transfer station's not open 3 days, maybe open up 1 day or 1 day a month? I don't know. I mean, there are other facilities in the location that are not far away, like Portland or whatnot, that would still take that kind of trash.
Are we being eco-friendly by having to travel farther?
So again, ma'am, whether or not we go with EcoMaine or another organization, I think the transfer station, no matter how we go, is going to look different in 3 or 5 years.
My concern is 3 days works for people in communities that work. Not everybody can get to that 1 day a week or, 1 day a month.
Yeah, you're gonna have to,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
because the people out there can't hear the question, so he's answering, they don't know what he's answering, and so that's what's important, and I understand your point, right? So, I mean, that's a form of conversation, and all these what-ifs, right? We don't really know what all those what-ifs are, and so that conversation would be much better with a bigger crowd where we could have more input onto what those what-ifs were. So the point is that what we're trying to do tonight is just try to educate people on why we're where we're at and where we're going, right? We're not trying to decide where the future is tonight. We're just trying to explain. And so that is what is really important. So if we could just hold the questions and let Bill finish his presentation, and then after that we can come back if that's acceptable, I'd appreciate that. So, Bill.
Yeah, I'm almost done, actually. I talked about EcoMaine, the $42,000 buy-in, the 82 communities. We have a voting right. Casella gave us a 2-year and a 5-year proposal. Their tipping fees were 107, 117 for the first 2 years, and then year 3, 4, and 5 were 123, 129, and 135. That's what it is per ton. Waste Management also gave us a proposal, and they actually had the best dollar value for tonnage, which was I think it was $92 per ton. But unfortunately, their transportation fees was triple what we currently pay. So, and we currently budget about $60,000 for for transportation tipping fees. If we would have went with waste management, it would have been $200,000 for transportation of the tipping fees. And that would have just been the transportation, that wouldn't have been the per tonnage cost. So really, to be honest, it was a discussion that the board had, and it came down to EcoMaine and Casella to do that. And again, I'd like to reemphasize, the Article 36 that they will be voting on, all it does is give the board permission to enter into the agreement. Whether or not they decide to or not, that's still going to be their decision to do. So I will open the floor for questions, and if I have any answers, I'll give you one.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment to that too, though, before we go further with that. So the thing about any town warrant that we have, we can always vote for less money, but we can never vote for more. So the EcoMaine portion of that was the most, the most costly for year one, and that's why it's in there. But the townspeople will make a decision on which direction they want to go. So Bill did a great job presentation. If anybody wants to ask any questions, we'd ask that you go to the mic and introduce yourself, tell us your name.
Bill, why don't you come sit down here at this mic?
Yeah.
That way you're not running back and forth.
Want to get a name tag?
And please state your name.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Debbie Bickford, and I'm loud. I don't really need a mic, but I'll stand here so the people who are watching can hear me. I actually have I have 3 why we are where we're at questions right now. Did I hear you say that it was January 25th when you started discussing? I thought I heard you say when you came up that at a January 25th.
January 2025. I don't know the exact date when we started discussing
That's okay.
this.
I just wanted to make sure that I heard him right. He said January 2025.
Correct.
That's when you started talking about the waste management problem. I'm just trying to get an idea in my head, and I've never been to a board meeting either, and I'm really trying to learn how the whole thing works, so I have questions structured for a
Yeah.
reason.
So in January 2025 is when the town of Buxton learned that the Tri-County Solid Waste Group was going to disband, and that Buxton had to come up with their own way of disposing of their trash.
Okay, that's good to know, because it's good to know, like, how much time has gone by and when you guys started discussing it, because I actually have gone back and I looked at April 2nd, April 16th, April 23rd, and April 30th, all of those board meetings to try to glean some information so I could be prepared for you guys tonight. I don't like to be unprepared. The next question is, I heard you say that that you got proposals from 3 places, and I think I have this right. There's a proposal from EcoMaine, and it's EcoMaine.
EcoMaine.
It's EcoMaine.
I think that's what it's called.
And then you got a proposal from Waste Management. And would I be right if I was guessing that Casella was the 3rd one?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's right. And then my last question, I might not have another one. Actually, is it true that the proposal, actually, let me back up. How is a citizen supposed to educate themselves about what's going on? In other words, you said that you knew on the 25th, but unless a person comes to every single one of these and hears the conversations that you guys are having, it's really hard to go back and know what you guys have for information. For example, my ears picked up when you said you talked to a couple of people this week. One was in New Hampshire, I think you said, or somewhere, another state. But we don't know what those are. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we don't have all the information that sounds either intriguing or possible, or how you guys are considering this, how are we supposed to, voice our opinions? And then that's just a general observation. And then the other thing is it true that the figures that have been given to the town, and you guys are looking out for the taxpayers, I understand that, and waste management is a problem, I understand that. Has EcoMaine given you hard numbers that they can guarantee for a certain number of years, or not? Is that not true?
So I'll answer those questions. And so the reason we haven't really been trickling information is because we don't want to give people partial information, right? We've been
Yeah.
working all up until this week where we've gathered information. Bill has put this presentation tonight to get the people the information that they kind of need. But what you just heard in 5 minutes has taken us 4 months really to involve, because we've been speaking to different people and what about this, what about that, a lot of different scenarios, so that way there we can say, okay, that scenario doesn't work, and the investigation I did this week, that scenario is not gonna work. And so a lot of time is spent trying to figure out scenarios to present to the public, but if they don't work, there's no use to present it out there, because we know financially and/or physically, it just doesn't work, all right? And so that's number one. The second one is that EcoMaine has given us a 30-year breakdown of basically what they project their tipping fees to be. And Casella's has given us a definite 2 years with a 5% increase CPI, whichever is greater. So at least 5% if CPI is greater, then the greater of the CPI would then cost price index, right? That's what the amount would adjust. And so do you know what CPI is going to be in 10 years? You don't, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of these figures, right, you have to work with the facts that you're given.
Right.
And we have to make decisions on the facts that are given in front of us. And that's what we know for information.
And I just want to end by saying I really liked what you said. Do you want to be a recycling community, or do you want to just get rid of the trash?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ellen Dakotas. I have several questions. When the group disbanded, did the group not only want to disband the handling of the trash, but also the recycling?
So the group was more of just, trash tipping fees. We have our own kind of managing or marketing group that actually deals with our recycling.
Okay, it's a separate,
Correct.
okay. What will be the impact on taxes if we go with ECO?
So $42,000 a year, that's, if it's 1 cent on the tax rate, I'd be surprised.
1 cent on that
So
amount?
on 1 cent on your mill rate.
Okay,
I mean, it's not even 1 cent, to be honest with you, it's probably half a cent. So
Oh, it's more than
there's,
that, though.
huh?
It's more than that.
$42,000 a year is not.
That's right. Well, no, it's it's around $200,000 for every dime. So 50,000 would be about 2.5 cents. So,
No, I'm pretty, yeah, okay, yeah, no, Mark's right, it'd be
so
about,
taxes would only go up 1 or 2 cents?
yes. Yeah, but remember, ma'am, that's based on just the $42,000 payment that you'll be making for 30 years.
right. So I think it's something important to understand too. We've been buying, our tipping fees have been about $80 a ton. We're going automatically to 107.50 cents. So that was the contract we had with the Tri-County, right? That contract is done. So we're going from $81 a ton to 107.50. So that alone, we've got, I think, 236,000 tons a year. So times, 20, it's $400,000 increase just in the tonnage, maybe a little less, 350. That's plus the 40. So the 40,000 to go with EcoMaine is the 2.5 cents, but then you have to add in the other 350,000 that our tipping fees are going to cost us, and that's just curbside. I don't know if that includes what happens at the transfer station. So the increase in trash this year is a lot more than a penny.
Correct.
You look confused there, Ellen.
Yes.
So you need me to explain that further, or?
The numbers were too fast.
So what Mark is saying is this, with the consortium, we had a very low rate for our
Yes.
tippings. It was 82.5 cents per ton.
Okay,
The lowest we got was 107 per ton, which is almost a 15 cent per ton increase.
now. With
Correct.
this-
So no matter what happens, you're going to see a pretty large increase in the transfer station's budget due to the increase in tonnage.
All right. So, right now, Casella takes trash, and we encourage a lot of people to recycle here. So if Eco-Maine, and this gets to my bigger question, okay, so if we get to when we come to the town meeting, and we have this item on there, to the number 36, I'm not really clear exactly what we're voting on. You said that we would, can the town enter into a 30-year agreement?
Correct.
Okay. But what exactly are they going to provide for us? Because I am confused about whether we are delineating exactly what they're going to do. I'm not talking about the amount of money, that's another piece, but are they going to have, are we saying, okay, we're going to have this service provided by Eco-Maine, and it provides curbside pickup for recycling and trash?
No.
Just trash?
So what Eco-Maine is.
Everything together?
So what Eco-Maine is they are a organization that is a consortium with other
Yes.
towns.
Yes.
So all they do is take your trash in and dispose of it by either landfill or burning or selling. They do not have trucks. They don't do the actual hauling or anything like that. They just take the trash in and deal with it. That is it.
So can I want to
Where will
expand.
recycling be in this
I'm-
picture?
So, this is where you're getting confused. We don't,
Probably.
if we go with Eco-Maine, nothing needs to change. Okay? Nothing needs to change. The curbside trash pickup will be hauled by Casellas, and instead of Casellas bringing it to wherever they bring it, they're gonna bring it to Eco-Maine.
They bring it to, yes.
Okay? The only thing that changes is that all the recycling that we do over here at the town, right now, we don't pay tonnage on that. We get a reimbursement for what we recycle. With Eco-Maine, that no longer exists. All the recycling that we do here at the town goes over to Eco-Maine, and we are going to pay tonnage. So if you want to keep the same scenario we have right now, right, the cost for trash goes up, because right now we're not paying tonnage, and we're getting a reimbursement on what we recycle. We can still do that, but we're no longer getting any money for the recycling. All that's going to go to Eco-Maine, and Eco-Maine is going to charge us tonnage for what we're bringing over there. So there's a cost. We don't have to change anything, but there's a cost to the town for doing that, and it's 182,000 tons. And right now, we're paying nothing on 182,000 tons. We would be paying 92 cents a ton. So if you figure that out, that's close to $200,000. So we'll be recycling and losing
$92.
how much?
$92.
182,000 tons?
I don't think we have 182 tons of
That's what he
tons of
That's what he
recycling.
said. I thought he said.
Okay.
I think that's the total amount. I don't think that's just the
So
recycling.
Okay.
recycling is going to be, okay.
Anyways, so.
So it's going to be
lo-
more costly to the town to actually
Recycle.
separate the recycling.
So here,
Yikes.
if we go with curbside recycling, right, then at that point, right, so let me complicate it even more. Again, this has been a complicated subject. There's a law that was put into place. It goes into effect in 2026. That law states that any manufacturing company that ships products in the state of Maine, if they don't send it in a recyclable item, they have to pay a fee. That fee is going to go to the state. According to Kevin Roach, he's saying that whatever you recycle, the cost to recycle, you're going to get 75% of that reimbursed,
Okay.
is what his opinion. I feel that that's a little high, but that was what he explained to us. So he said that you don't have to change anything, but we were going to incentivize you to recycle. The town of Buxton right now only recycles 6% of its trash. That's where we're at, according to his numbers. He said 6% of our trash gets recycled, that's it. He's hoping to get us to 35, maybe 4%, 40%, right? When you look at curbside recycling, I've done some investigation in that too. He's saying it doesn't really cost that much extra, because they go in and pick one trash, and then they move forward and they pick the recycling. It's in the split body. The problem is that works really well in big cities, where you can go through a neighborhood and fill a truck up. Right? But if you're in a rural area like us, where the truck has to travel a lot, right, we're not going to get the same impact because we're so spread out. So it's going to be much quicker to fill half the body of trash than it is going to be in recycling. So that becomes problematic, and so we don't have those numbers and what's it's going to cost us to do curbside recycling. A lot of communities I see, they send 2 trucks, one to pick up the trash and one to pick up the recycling, right? They do have the split bodies, but what I'm seeing, they have 2 different trucks. So that complicates the numbers as well, right? So the community knows, to be a recycling community, there's no cost savings. It's an expense to the community. Depends on how much money you want to spend to recycle. There's no money in recycling. If you want to be a recycling community, that will be a cost, and the townspeople can make that decision. But it's not a cost neutral. It doesn't make any money. It's an expense to the community. How much money does the community want to spend to recycle? That's what that looks like.
So if EcoMaine just picked up the trash,
They don't pick up trash. They just take
I
trash.
mean, they take the trash, I'm sorry. I know what you see, I see them going in there all the time. If Casella picks up our trash and it goes to EcoMaine, okay, and we maintained recycling and increased it, as that person you're talking about said, is that going to be an exorbitant cost to the town? Or do
So
they
right
get
now, if
rebates
what
for
you're
it?
saying is if we don't change anything, right, we keep doing the way we're doing it, the only thing is we go into a partnership with EcoMaine and our trash goes there instead of the Tri-County,
Yep.
right? The only difference is right now, what we recycle, we get money for it and we don't pay tipping fees. If we go with EcoMaine, we don't get any money for what we recycle and we have to pay $92 a ton for whatever we recycle. We have to pay, and right now, we're not paying
Mandate
for it.
that.
I'm
They
sorry?
mandate that we have to.
That's the way the contract is written.
Okay. And is there another option to continue to recycle with the companies that you've met with? Is that out
Recycling
the
is
window?
always on the table. We can all recycle. We can recycle here. If the townspeople want to do the curbside recycling, we can do that even if we don't go with EcoMaine, right? So recycling is on the table. It's just a matter of, does the townspeople want to pay the extra cost to do curbside recycling or not? Or do they just want to do the recycling here?
Okay, I'm just concerned about having the town vote on this, which does not discuss recycling in this number 36 warrant on the town meeting.
Because that has nothing to do with recycling. It's only about where we want to bring our trash.
Right.
They would
Just so
incentivize us
people
to
understand.
recycle,
I
right?
hope people understand that when they vote on this. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, can I switch hats for a minute and be, and now I'm aging in Buxton. I just wanted to give an update because I haven't been here for a little while.
Can you just, give us a minute, make
Oh,
sure
yes, somebody
everybody's
else
all
wanna
done
talk.
answering
I'm
questions,
sorry.
and you can come back and change the subject. You have to go to the mic, though, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you have to go to the mic. Oh, she's got a mic.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
let her
sorry.
ask.
I don't want to be on camera. Makes me nervous. So my question is that many of my neighbors and other people that I see in town do not have the time because of family and whatnot to get to these meetings. And they don't understand it, and they don't know where to find this information. Not everybody drives on this side of the road to see this information here. And so my thing is how can you guys better get this information? Because what you're saying about EcoMaine right now is that, yes, we get money for the recycling at the transfer station, but now we're not going to, and we're going to have to pay $91 for the tonnage. Not everyone understands that, and it took us, how long did it take us to get to that point? So I don't understand how much it's going to cost us if in 2026 or 2027, I know we're paying $42,000 a year with EcoMaine, and we're going to have to travel all the way to Portland to drop stuff off. It doesn't make any sense. Like shingles and stuff like that. How much is it going to cost us to bring shingles or whatever,
So EcoMaine does not take shingles and
No,
they don't
you
take
said that.
sheetrock.
Right, you said that. But if you close the transfer station, we're going to have to find a
So
place.
we're not closing the transfer station, right?
But I said if.
Yeah.
I said if. I know that you.
So, look, gonna be, look, if we go with Eco Maine, right, if we looked out on longevity-wise,
Repeat that again, I'm gonna scream. I know that it's
Okay.
$91.
no, I'm not talking about that.
We're gonna get paid for recycling.
No, it's not what
And they're
I'm-
gonna bring
okay.
that to the trash. Well, you've repeated it 3 times, but go ahead.
What I was going to say is that the reason, and the board's not unified on this because this is a complicated matter. The reason the board decided to go with Eco Maine, because if you looked at the numbers, if you look out 5, 7, 8 years,
Not
it
that
becomes cost-effective to go with Eco Maine, right? And so when you go with Eco Maine, if they choose to go with, if they're going to incentivize recycling, and by incentivizing recycling, the point is that we can get reimbursed from the state, in his opinion, 75% of what we spend for recycling. And that's why it makes it cost-effective to go in that route. A lot of what-ifs there, but that's,
So when you say we're gonna get reimbursed, is it through the transfer station or through Eco?
through the state.
No, what I'm saying is, when we recycle, I know it's through the state, because you just said that they're gonna get the money and then they're gonna disperse it out. But what I'm asking you is, when would we get that money? If we went with Eco, or if we stayed with the town?
So this is how that's gonna work, ma'am. So what happens is the money would go to actually Eco Maine. And what Eco Maine would do with that money is use it and put it in the reserves to keep our tipping fees lower.
Okay, that makes more sense. That's where I was getting at. The next thing is that, what would it cost us for all these containers and stuff like that?
What containers?
Those bins? Would it,
That's a whole different discussion that we're gonna have to have in about 2 years.
okay, that's what I wanted to ask.
And I just want everybody to understand something. You know, we sit here and we talk about recycling. You know, our recycling income currently is anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000. And unfortunately, our transfer station costs a lot more than $10,000 or $15,000 a year. So no matter how you look at it, recycling is costing this town money, period. Whether it's going to Eco Maine or whether it's going to the transfer station. So just so you know that, no matter what, recycling isn't it's, as Mark puts, it's eco-friendly. It's not cost-effective, no matter how you do it.
So if we were to raise the costs, why don't we raise the cost for like shingles and like other?
So the board went through the fee schedule with the transfer station. I think we increased it July 1 of this year. Because how the board felt is that, you know, we have probably 10% of this community that use the transfer station. So why should taxes for 8,000 people pay for when 10% of the people are using it? So technically, you know, myself and Greg Heffernan sat down and looked where we currently are with, you know, the fee schedule and the revenue and expenses are. And currently where the fee schedule is paying for the tipping fees over at the transfer station.
Deb Bickford again. In the warrants, I want to know if I'm reading this wrong. Article 80, it says recycling income $150,000.
Right, so when we talk about recycling income, we're talking about the income we get for recycling, you know, cardboard stuff, and then also the money that when people go over and they dump, you know, refrigerators, tires, and all that stuff. So it's everything that goes over there, not just recycling.
I'd like to dovetail on that. That's not a very good percentage of people who are recycling, and I find that a little sad.
What's that, the 10%?
Yeah. Wouldn't it make sense to have a broader, longer conversation with the citizens of the town of Buxton and figure out why wouldn't it be a good idea to stay with Casella for 2 years so that we can really have a conversation?
So that was an option that the board did discuss.
I don't know if it's
So-
a good idea or not. I'm not a selectman and I don't do all the work that you guys do, but I'm asking you if and I totally hear you saying it's not cost effective right now to recycle. I heard you say that.
Okay, so here's the only, I don't know if it's the only downfall for waiting 2 years. Eco Maine may not open their doors. So the only reason Eco Maine opened their doors currently is that the Tri-County has disbanded and they know they're gonna grab some towns. Eco-Maine doesn't normally open their doors for new communities. So if we wait the 2 years and wait until the Casella contract is done, there's a good chance that Eco-Maine would not open their doors and we wouldn't have that option anymore.
Did I hear you say that there's either an owner or a voting member?
So the owner is the voting member, and then they also have a contract member, which you just sign a contract. You don't have a say in what they charge or anything. You just get a contract that says you're gonna pay X.
So in 2 years, if we went with Casella for 2 years, would we always be able to be a, whatever that second thing is?
Contract member, yep. Which, Mark, do you remember how much the contract difference was to the owner difference? I know there was a difference.
Yeah, I don't remember that number, but I think what's important to understand too is that if you become a contract member and you're not a member, right, listen, landfills are filling up in our state,
Yeah.
right? Trash, I mean, we're looking
get it.
potentially in 15, 20 years hauling trash out of here on box trucks, right? Or trains. And so the concern is that if you become a contract member, and Bill and I talked about that, is that if the landfill's getting full, they might say, okay, we've got enough trash, no more contract members, and then you're gonna be stuck again. And so the purpose behind trying to get into Eco-Maine now, the app, is because you want to protect the town for future years. That's the goal here, right? We got a 30-year contract. We're trying to put the town in the best position possible for futuristic years. And a lot of that is a lot of what ifs. We don't, you know what I mean? So, but no, I don't know that number, Bill.
I know, I have a feeling it was 4 or 5 cents more expensive than being a member. Huh?
$4 or $5.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was dollars, it was cents. It was because it's 107, and I think it was like 112 or 111. And then remember, that's
That's
per
dollars.
ton.
That's dollars.
Oh, okay, you're right, it is dollars. Sorry, my bad. And I'm the treasurer. Fire me right now.
My turn. Joe Wallace. I just got a couple of questions. He said the board's not unified. Will you guys tell me which ones are on board and which ones aren't?
I'm one of the members that's not on board.
I'm not in favor of it either.
Okay, you and Mark?
I'm still on the fence. We haven't,
Okay.
They haven't totally convinced me.
So the town meeting's not very far away.
I get that.
Yeah.
But do remember, sir, they can vote, you guys can vote them to enter in that agreement, and then they don't have to do it. The article is asking your permission to allow them to enter an agreement.
And
If
you
they
only need
choose
3
not
out
to
of
go
the
with
5.
Eco-Maine and do something
right?
else, they can still do that.
And you only need 3 out of the 5.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
okay.
right now, it's 3 to 2.
How about you, Chad? Eco-Maine? Yeah. I get the part about buying into Eco-Maine, I understand that. What if they don't vote it in? What's your plan?
So the plan would be, so if you're asking me what I feel, what our future looks like if I don't go, I did not vote, I'm not in favor of Eco-Maine, so, having said that, I think that the board made the right decision because it does, if you look at the facts that we were giving, the Eco-Maine is the best solution. My problem is that I don't believe in the facts that we were given. I think that the numbers are skewed a little bit, and every municipality, every trash person that I've spoken to, they're all moving at a 5% CMI, and Eco-Maine's only moving at 3%. And so I understand they're a different organization, but to give 3% for the next 30 years, I think is a tough number to meet, number one. Number two, I don't believe in the 75 reimbursement for the trash because I've already seen, with Amazon orders I've made, they're coming in recyclable material already. So a lot of those numbers, I feel that even though those are the facts we've been given, I think the town moving in that direction is probably the best scenario. I would hate to lead the town in the wrong direction and say, you know what, don't go with Eco-Maine and we lose out. Having said that, my opinion is, okay, for me, we keep going the way we're going. We go with Casella's for the next 2 years. We put an RFP out to Waste Management, who has a transfer station down in Rochester. What does it stand for, Bill?
Request for proposal.
correct.
Yeah, request for proposal to get, because we have, our trash is coming up in 2 years with Casella's. So I say we continue in the same, because Casella's is actually giving us tipping fees for 107 and 117 for next year and the year after, which is 50 cents a piece less, and we don't have to pay the membership of $40,000 a year, or 42, and we get our recycling, we don't have to pay for the recycling, and we get a reimbursement of 15 grand. So if I look at all those numbers, I think that I'm safe for the next 2 years, and hopefully that we can come up with a plan in the next 2 years that would be more feasible. Having said that, we might, and then we miss the opportunity with EcoMaine, and then the town's out. So, again, that's why we're not unified. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's the town's vote to say, okay, this is, majority, this is what we're going to do, and that's how we'll move forward as a board. But if you're asking me what I do if we don't go with EcoMaine, that's what I would suggest.
I just was curious, if we don't do EcoMaine, then it just stays like it is for 2 years, right?
Correct.
Transfer station's gonna continue to do what it's doing. And, yeah, okay.
But we missed that opportunity. That's the only thing, right? So that's,
Well, moving in haste isn't always a good thing either.
right, I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, this is pretty short notice for everybody, including you guys, but, yeah. All right, thank you.
You were talking about moving, we'd have to go to bring our trash possibly to Haverly or something like that.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
You were talking about might, after 2 years, if we don't go with EcoMaine, we might box trucks or bring it down out of state or something like that?
So I had looked at a scenario where we would pick up our curbside trash pickup, bring it over here, dump it on the ground, have a loader put in a 100-yard dumpster, and we would truck it ourselves. After looking that through, the price to get the trailer, the price to get the truck, the manpower, all of that, there is a savings, but it's not worth the risk. The moving trailers, the floor mover, very costly, a lot of moving pieces there. There is some savings, but we're not in that business, and the cost savings is not justified to go in that route.
Okay.
So,
Chad, why do you want to go with Eco?
It seems as if that's probably the best route for the future. My concern is if we miss an opportunity, and with the landfills filling up, if we're not locked into a group that is going to have some muscle, and we're just a contract town with somebody like Casella, and things do have to start getting trucked out, the tipping fees are going to go astronomically high, and it's a risk. We don't know, and that's the problem with this. This was just essentially dumped on us back in January to make some big decisions. So it's a tough call, but being part of a larger organization where you're an owner of it, being able to have a say, basically like being a shareholder in it, I believe it's going to put the town in a much better place, both with decisions and being more fiscally responsible.
See, I'm in between both of you. I have the same thought process as you with regards, let's wait 2 years and make the decision, but at the same time, EcoMaine is really squeezing us because now, we've opened it up because now we have more of an opportunity to, bank the money and get more money from the state to recycle and all that. So that's why they're opening up the doors, so that they can make more money. But in the end, like you're saying, the 3%, is this the 3% because they're going to be getting more money from recycling and the state, to recycle? So is that why it's at 3%? And the others aren't really recycling, they're just burning it and trashing it. So I'm with you on both of those, but it's
tough. It's a tough call.
So so I know that people have been talking about information. We're going to take this meeting tonight. We're going to put it out on our website, so people can click on it and look at it. We are on YouTube as far as Saco River TV. You can go online. Anybody can watch this meeting on YouTube. So it's tough to get information out there. We're doing the best that we can. I mean, we want the people to be informed, right? But look, we've given all the information we have, and I don't have a decision tonight, right? A lot of people are like, dude, I don't know either. So it's a complicated matter. We've known it's been a complicated matter. We haven't kept this information from the public because we wanted to, right? We just wanted to make sure that we could answer these questions so the people, because it is a complicated matter.
You want to make an informed response. My thing is why not in the schools, you know how they have the information, something like the high school, the little computer thing it tells, why not put like town meeting, and like information on the school websites, because a lot of parents, are in sports and can't come, and whatnot. Why not put the information on the school's website saying, hey, town meeting, link for town, the town website, something like that.
I mean,
be
so,
done.
I guess it's a thought, but we have our own website, so, if people.
No, I mean a link to go to your website,
Right.
to the town.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, is like, put down town meeting, link to town website.
Yeah.
And they can click on it on the school website.
Yeah, that would be, something that they would have to be willing to do, so we
Right,
can't
so
speak for
while
them.
the superintendent wants us to be voting on $2 million for health insurance,
I hear you.
Just an afterthought. Might be a good time for us to look at a digital message board up front that we should have
looking at
years
that right
ago.
It's not allowed by zoning.
We can change zoning, we do it all the
It's
time.
we're trying to
Yeah,
change it
we're
now. It's
way
going to
behind.
be voted on the 14th.
Yeah, we're way behind times.
Which article is that?
It's one of the ordinances, I couldn't tell you
It's in
exactly
the
what.
it's
It's
like
what, in the middle of it.
70s.
Is that what it is?
From the
There's a
70s.
bunch of zoning changes of,
Don't make
Yes.
me reread it, please.
Archaic.
It's been failed, it's failed twice.
Yeah, I know.
So this is the third
Yeah.
time we've tried to do it.
Good
why
luck.
has it failed?
Good luck.
People don't want
We
those
need it.
signs.
Now, I have not been to a town meeting before, obviously. Can I ask when we can talk about something that was in the last town meeting? Or another town meeting?
so I just want to finish this subject,
no,
and
that's
then
what I mean.
Ellen Dakotas would be next, because we asked her to be patient,
Right,
and
I
then you
just-
can speak to whatever it is you want to change.
Okay.
So I just want to, is this, are we, David's coming up, okay.
Dave Harmon, Buxton. You say that if we go with EcoMaine, that it's going to cost us X number of dollars a ton for recyclable stuff and X number of dollars a ton for trash. And you also said, I believe, that some of the other communities, Portland, or, the bigger communities, that they're picking up both and they're filling up the truck equal with trash and recyclables. If you pick up 5 houses in Portland and you pick up 5 houses in Buxton, if people are recycling, what would be the difference?
So I got that information from Peter LaRochelle, and I said, when I spoke with, because I'm not in the trash business, I'm just speaking to people and getting information that I can get. And I said, you know what, if we did curbside recycling, would you come in with a split body or would you come in with a regular body? And he said, you know what, because you're so spread out, I would send 2 trucks. So that way there I can make sure that my trash truck is full, because the people don't recycle as much as they throw in trash. And so I would send up 2 trucks. And so that was, I'm just reiterating what I heard from a guy that's been doing trash for 50 years. I don't know, that's what his opinion is, that's what he said, because he's been doing it for so long, I'm taking it as that's an educated answer.
I mean, I've talked to a number of people over the years, and they say, Westbrook, just the other day, I stopped the trash truck. Well, they were stopped, and I stopped to talk to them. I said, you're coming up and you're picking up trash, and you're moving ahead 2 feet and you're picking up recyclables, you're dumping it into the same truck. They say they have a flapper that splits, so you can fill either one. They're doing that right now here. The trucks that they have here in Buxton, they can do that.
Yeah.
So why would they have to send 2 trucks?
I'm not saying I'm just saying with Peter LaRochelle, because he says that we don't recycle enough, and he said that the front, because it's a split body, right? They flip the flap,
Yeah.
and what happens is the trash side gets filled a lot faster than the recycling side, and once the trash side is filled, the truck needs to go dump. And so it's a long run to dump, so he would send one truck to pick up trash to make sure it's completely full before he sent it. They can do the flip-flop thing, but if you got a full, trash side and only an eighth of it full on the recycling, you still gotta go dump the truck because the trash side is full.
Like I said, you pick up five houses here and 5 houses in Portland. As long as you get the people to recycle, there shouldn't be a
In
problem.
Portland, they're taking it 8 miles to the plant. Here, they have to go 20 miles to the plant.
Yeah, they're still picking up the same amount though.
And David, I think the bigger issue is that when EcoMaine gave us numbers and stuff, Buxton's recycle rate 6%, when every other surrounding town around us is up above 30.
Because they've been doing it.
Correct.
So my other question is, you said that EcoMaine, they would get the money back from Amazon or whatever. So what happens if we stay here with the recycling here? We're not going to get any money from them?
No, he said that everybody would get if we didn't go with EcoMaine, I do believe we would get those resources. Not only that, I think that, I didn't, Bill heard something that I might have, so look, a lot of information going on. From what I understood is that the town of Buxton was gonna get reimbursed 75%. So the trash truck going out, whatever we paid for that, whatever we recycled, the cost to recycling, we would get 75% is the way I understood it. Bill might have understood it a little bit differently. I don't know if any other members, but again, you know what I mean? There's a lot of moving pieces there. That's how I understood it, that the town of Buxton would be reimbursed 75%, which I look at and that's a lot of money. And when you're talking, he said it was going to be an account of about 35 million. We could easily spend $800,000 in recycling if you talk the truck, the trash, and everything else. And so, we're just one community out of a lot. So if there's a purse of 35 million, I think that 35 million would get eaten up pretty quickly, especially when you go to, organizations like Portland, where their recycling is probably going to be 7-8 times what Buxton is. And so, that's why I feel that 75% reimbursement is a little high, because there's only 35 million that's going to be coming in, and so that'll be eaten up pretty quickly. But that's, again, just my opinion.
I have another trash question. Okay, so if the trucks could be more filled with recycling, what impact would that have on this whole deal? We're only at 6%. If we could get people up to a higher rate of recycling, would that improve the deal?
So what Kevin Roach from EcoMaine said is if you make it easier to recycle, which would be curbside recycling, your percentage will go up.
It will?
Yeah.
Yes.
So have we considered doing that?
That's, so unfortunately, we can't do it now because we're currently under contract for 2 years with Casella just to
Right.
do trash haul. But in 2 years, when we go out to RFP, I think that's going to be part of a proposal to see how much it would cost the town to go to curbside recycling.
I think that needs to go out to the people to know that, because this warrant does not say that.
Right, because
Again, to her point, we need to, the landfills are filled, and we need to do something else to address all the stuff that we get rid of. And if people had a higher motivation to recycle, then it can be done. And if that could affect the cost for people, then we need to put that out to them, that they understand, because we're saying now, if you bring your recycling to the transfer station, it doesn't, it's costing the town. But if we could actually say curbside pickup with both containers, and what the cost would be to us for that, then I think you could modify things in the town
Can I answer that,
to the
Bill?
benefit.
Go ahead, yeah.
So, what Bill said a while ago was really important, Ellen,
Okay.
right? There's no money savings in recycling. The more you want to recycle, the more the cost is. Bottom line. That's bottom line. If you do the curb, if you're doing the recycling here, it's the most cost-effective way for financially. Now, if the townspeople want to get into, we want to recycle more, we can do that. There's a cost to that, right? And so when you're asking, why is that not being addressed here? Because we're not addressing that now because that's 2 years away. In 2 years, we can ask the community, do you want to start recycling more? And this is what it's going to cost you. There's no cost savings to recycling, right? So if you want to recycle more, it's going to cost the community more.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I switch hats now, or should I wait?
Hold on, is there anybody else?
Or,
Where's that, you were saying 75, if we recycle more, we get 75% or 75, what was that?
So the number that Mark and Kevin kind of threw out, what it is the more you recycle, the more money you're going to be able to get back from this initiative that the state is doing.
But Eco will get it.
So, again, that's how I took it, is that they keep the money to use that funds to keep our tipping rates to where they are. But Mark heard it that it actually comes back to the town. I guess that would be something we'd have to get clarified.
Yeah, and my next thing is also, you know how you guys send out pamphlets, like one sheet pamphlet? Why don't you guys send that out when there's big numbers being thrown out, and make it simple, because not everybody understands, the technicality of wordage of I can't think of the name.
tipping fees.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
tipping fees and stuff like that. Why don't you guys have a more simpler version for people to understand, and the breakdown, and then they can make the decision, like, here's the breakdown of this on one page, and here's the breakdown on the other page. Mail it out, fold it up, and mail it out, because this is a huge decision, for this town.
So I don't disagree. I don't know if we can make it any simpler than what we discussed tonight, number one. But number two,
it took us a long time to get to it.
Yeah, it did, but it's, every time we mail something out, it's about $6,000. So that's what the cost would be to mail a piece of paper out. And out of that, how many is going to read it and how many are going to just file it? So
That's a good point, that's a good point.
So, I'm sorry? There you go.
That is a good point, but
All right.
I tried talking to neighbors, and they're like, I don't even know what's going on here.
On that comment, ma'am, the board made a really good decision when it comes to this for a couple of reasons. Because some people ask, well, why isn't this a secret ballot question? So more people could vote on it. Unfortunately, if it's a secret ballot question, they wouldn't know maybe what they're voting on, hence why the board put it on a town meeting, so at least we could have a conversation like this with more people here, getting them to understand what they're actually voting on.
Is that it on this subject? Yeah. Sorry, David, I'm sorry.
Heathite, quick question. The only thing I understand, trash is expensive all the way around. People don't realize how expensive it is to get rid of trash. I understand what you guys are going through. I can see why you guys are on the fence and not on the fence. My question is, the 30-year agreement with Eco Maine, is that going to become an overlap with Casella's? Because if our contract is still good for 2 years through Casella, when would that Eco Maine contract start? As soon as the Casella goes away?
So the Eco Maine contract would start July 1, 2025, because it's for disposal.
Okay.
When Casella is actual trash pickup.
Okay. So,
Two different contracts.
Correct.
so we would still be doing the curbside, but we'd also be still doing the Casella stuff, so.
Correct. So remember, this 30-year buy-in of 42,000 is for 30 years, but then you belong to Eco Maine for as long as you want. So you just pay for that 42,000 for the 30 years. Year 50, you're not paying for that $42,000 anymore because you already belong to Eco Maine.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, I got a little confused on that conversation. Casella, after 2 years, will still be picking up our trash and recycling,
Not necessarily.
not necessarily.
Our contract with Casella's is only 2 more years.
You're right,
Then that ends.
exactly. And then Eco Maine will take care of this.
No.
No.
Eco Maine just takes trash. They don't pick up trash.
Okay, I got a little confused because there's so many.
We're gonna have two contracts,
That's what I thought. Okay, I got a little
one for disposal, one for pickup.
Yeah.
it could happen if we don't go with Eagle Maine, that in 2 years, Casella might get both of them.
Right, so no matter what,
Yeah, I
what,
understood that, I don't know why
Okay.
I got confused, I understood the whole thing. Got it.
Anybody else?
Ellen.
Ellen, would you like to finish?
Sure.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, so for an update. The biggest program, well, let me just, okay, Aging in Buxton, again, is an organization that's part of, really, it's called an age-friendly community, which is an organization that is headed out of the World Health Organization and AARP. We are an official age-friendly community, and our purpose is to provide services to help older people stay in their homes as they age. The biggest program that we're providing is the senior food boxes. And they are delivered monthly to the Public Works Garage, and thank you very much for the Public Works Department who accommodate this process so that one bay is opened and people can drive through and get their food. We are now up to 90 boxes a month. Unfortunately, the Department of Agriculture, the USDA budget was cut, and so they have capped us right now at 80 boxes. We do have a grant that we were given, that we applied for, and we were given the grant through the AARP, and if we need to, we are going to have to supplement the box food through the grant for people, because we don't want to discontinue their food. We also are working very closely with community organizations to direct people and try to provide other food. So, for example, Bonnie Eagle High School had a turkey dinner to say thank you to all the senior citizens in town. And I contacted them, and we received 30 boxes, 30 turkey meals that we distributed to people who wanted them. We also are going to start posting when church suppers are going to be held, and that we offer to either pay for it or possibly transport people because of the large number of people who don't have any vehicles to get them places. So those are some ways that we're looking right now to protect people from not having enough food. Some of the one other food pantry in town did have a significant cut as well with the guidelines that are coming down. We're working to continue to spread the word about our existence, so you'll see posters and cards throughout town. Right now, we are rather desperately looking for volunteers to mow lawns for people, because that also is something that is needed, mowing lawns, doing yard work in the winter, shoveling, because people want to stay in their homes, but they are failing and not able to provide these services. So if there's anybody who would offer to help one lawn per summer, it would be wonderful to help people. We continue with delivering library books to people and providing rides to medical appointments. So we are very happy with what we've been doing. We're working with some of the other departments in the town to kind of dovetail with services that people need. And that's all right now. If anybody has questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you, and no question, but just a statement. I think I mentioned it at a meeting probably about 6 months or a year ago, where there was an elderly lady who needed some help with a ramp, and I gave Ellen a call. She organized a crew, it ended up churning out that the family members stepped up to help, and they didn't have to do it, but regardless, they were ready to go and ready to help, so.
Yes,
I know
we're
it's
getting, thank you. Yes, we're getting calls that have significant needs. During the winter, we got a lot of calls that people's furnaces weren't working. Then they can't, even though they might be eligible for heating assistance, if their furnaces aren't working, they don't get the fuel. So people needed wood to prevent their pipes from freezing. So there are a lot of people needing assistance to kind of survive in town right now. So,
Can I add something to that? Why not, like, sports teams, like the football teams or the baseball teams, they could come and help rake or something, like do a volunteer thing or something like that. I can't do it this summer, but I'll try to connect with you. I'll give you my number for next year to mow a lawn or two. I like
Thank you.
mowing the lawn, or for an elderly person, but why not like the shop department at the high school? Why can't they build something? Because if you can help supply something for them, or they can work with another, a company like Hammond Lumber or something, they could build a ramp, or they could do something like that. So if you talk to the shop teachers, and also, don't kids have to, volunteer a certain amount in school systems now?
there are certain clubs that have a requirement.
Yeah.
But it can be met in different ways within the school curriculum itself. So there is not as much of a need for those hours. But we have had people shoveling throughout the winter, and we distribute the sand buckets as they come through for their boxes, or we bring it to their homes. But no, some of the residents would be able to pay something for people to mow their lawns, but not many people. They can pay for some people are turning their lights off during the day so that they can buy food. So if we could just have somebody help with the mowing, it would. And many of them have mowers. Yes, they have ride-on mowers, or they have push mowers at their homes, but medically they're not able to do the exercise. So if someone could contact us, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Deborah Bickford. I'm trying to learn how the board works, so these are just nuts and bolts questions, functional questions, I guess. My first question is, what is the difference between an executive order and an executive order initiative? And, two-part question, are they listed somewhere so that people know that you're working on them?
So an executive order by initiative is basically something that would be done that's above and beyond what we have over here. So we initiated it before this executive orders were put out. The executive order is basically, giving the board approval of doing something. And when, we're approving executive order, like the first one is Executive Order 242500454, and it's allocating money for expenditures, and the board is approving that allocation. And so if you go to, the executive order, it tells you what that executive order is.
So is an initiative something that a community member starts and brings up, or is it something
No, it would
that
be
you-
something that was beyond, go ahead, Dave, if you want to answer.
It would just be like if something happened before the meeting, after this was printed, and we needed to do an executive order for someone to have a vacation or
Okay.
some, personnel thing.
Okay, I looked at a lot of the meetings, and I'm trying to understand what the things
We
mean.
usually don't have an executive
Order initiative.
initiative. We plan everything. It's just in case of an emergency.
Okay. Is the date that the warrants are signed, I noticed that you signed this one on April 30th. Is that about normal? Like, in other words, what I'm asking you is, do you sign the executive, I'm sorry, I take that back. do you sign the warrants for the annual town meeting around the end of April every year? Is that how that works?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then I noticed in a different meeting, you said, I'm sorry this is old stuff because you were meetings before. I'm really trying to understand. So, do you work on a warrant like one at a time and then you keep signing those warrants as you work during the year? Or do you have to sign them all like by April 30th so that it can go to the annual town meeting? Or is it both?
The budget committee starts meeting in January, and we go over all these budgets from January until, it was what, April?
Yeah.
Before the budget committee and the selectmen agreed on all the numbers. And then both of those committees voted on it. And then we have to present it to the town.
And you try to have that done in a timely manner so that people can tell what the warrants are going to be, and that's why you sign off on it around the 30th of April.
And also so it can be in the town report.
Okay,
We have to print the town report,
right,
and that takes,
money and
weeks.
time.
you know, we can't wait until June 1st.
But you also have to print that, so you're getting it ready until the town meeting, and then everybody votes, and then the town report is finished, finalized,
No.
and printed.
No,
They're
the
actually in our
warrant
office.
is done. We can't
Okay,
go up.
oh, I get it, okay, so those are done, so they're ready for the town report.
Yes.
Got it. Another nuts and bolts question. Unassigned surplus, do I have this right? Is that the money that's left after paying all of everything like salaries and operating costs? When I see that in the warrants, when it says unassigned surplus, and we're voting on something that's gonna cost money, and it says the money is coming from unassigned surplus, does that mean money that's left over from taking in property taxes that doesn't go towards salaries and things like that? Or do I have that wrong? What's an unassigned surplus?
So unassigned surplus is basically, for lack of a better term, a savings account. All the money,
Oh.
it's like a general fund, right? So basically, when we put out a warrant and people spend their warrant and like the department heads spend their budgets, whatever's left would go into unassigned surplus.
Okay.
And so we put money in, basically, we have our money into an account, and that earns interest. That money would go into the unassigned surplus. If we sold properties that, were taken, we had for unpaid taxes, right? We sold those properties, we got all those tax dollars back. The money we got for the properties went to the residents, but that money went to unassigned surplus. And so basically, that's kind of like a savings account that we need a certain amount. And basically, our accountant has told us we need 60 to 90 days of reserve and unassigned surplus to be a healthy community. And so we are at that threshold. And so this year, we're spending more out of unassigned surplus than we have in the years past, you're right, to pay, we're buying, equipment, things of that nature, and using.
I see it, it's Article 79, $500,000 in unassigned surplus.
So that particular, but there's more articles in there that would be unassigned surplus, because we're
Yeah.
buying a new plow truck
I
that's
have them
unassigned.
all
Okay.
blocked
And so
out.
that the $500,000 that you're looking at from unassigned surplus, that is going to pay down the mill rate to lower taxes. That's what we're using that 500, up to 500,000. We may not spend the whole thing. We're trying to keep our increase in taxes at a minimum this year. Again, just in trash, you're looking at
Yeah.
$400,000. We've had some union negotiations, you know what I mean, that were, some big increases. And the one thing to understand, right, when we do union negotiations, that we don't negotiate on what we're gonna pay each other. We do a very large, wage analysis with all communities that surround our community and say, okay, what are people paying? Where should our people be? And the thing is that we need to be somewhat equal, because if not, then we have to go to arbitration, and then we have to fight through arbitration to show that what we're paying them is fair and just. And if they come in and say, look what everybody else is paying, and we're much lower, that's not fair and just.
You
And
have to
so
be competitive.
we have to be
You have to be
competitive.
competitive.
Right. And so that's how we come up with our wage analysis for our wage increases, and that's what you're seeing this year. We're just agreed with both the fire and the police for a new 3-year contract starting July 1st, and that's in this year's budget.
I have a few more. Can I have permission? Really, these are all nuts and bolts questions. They're nothing controversial. What is, on warrant 43, what's a regional public access facility? What is that?
We'll read the whole article.
Oh, you made me have to find it. Article 43. It just says regional access facility. This is a test for me, right? How fast can I find it? 34. 43. Shall the town of Buxton vote to appropriate a sum of money for Buxton's share of a regional public access facility? Said amount shall not exceed the amount that the town receives from cable company franchise fees each year. Requested amount is $41,550,000 for the fiscal year 2025-2026.
That's how this gets televised.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote. I wanna know what I'm voting for. I didn't know what that was.
And that doesn't come out of the budget.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That does not come out of the town budget. It comes out of the
The franchise fee.
franchise fees that we get from Spectrum.
Okay,
So it isn't costing us any money.
a lady said over here during the night that it's hard for people to know what to vote for if they don't understand it. I wanna know what these mean. That's why I'm asking these questions. I've watched a lot of, I've read a lot of complaints and I've heard a lot of complaints, and I know that I've heard you guys talk about how hard it is to find information. And I heard somebody up there say, I think it was Mr. Blyer, said that every time you mail something out, it costs $6,000. Is that what you said? Because I really love the idea of a flyer with the warrants on it so people can get the information. Because people are busy, not everybody has a computer. Elderly people probably would have a really hard time finding information. And I know that you guys also said that you put information up on bulletin boards at like the grocery stores and places like that. But people don't stop at a bulletin board at a grocery store and read those. So a flyer, yes, you're right, some people would throw them away. But if they weren't physically mailed, would it still cost that $6,000? If you had something printed that somebody could walk into the town hall and get physically, or if they were provided at a store where people could pick them up, busy people, family with kids, people who work, be able to pick it up and read it at their leisure, would that still cost $6,000?
No, the $6,000 is not the printing, that's just the mailing, because, 55 cents a stamp, we got 9,000 residents, and so that's where the 6,000 comes in.
So I'm hearing.
And so, I hear what you're saying. First, you'd have to ask for shelf space, right? And so,
Yes.
just because you got to make sure that the stores, wherever you put it, would allow you to put it there, number one. And number two, I think it's much easier when it's a constant, where people know that they can go there for the town. And so, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we wouldn't put something out there every single week, right? So, I mean, this is a big ticket item here, but, we do have some of those throughout the course of the year, but not to the point where we need a shelf space, is, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
I'm not saying have something put out with everything you guys discuss. I'm saying something, at least an informational mailer about the upcoming town meeting and the warrants, the work you guys have done all year long.
Right, so I think that the annual time, I think we're gonna post that anyways, right? Don't we have to? It is posted, but I think that's what this board that we're trying to achieve here by changing the zoning to allow us to have an electric board in the front.
It would help.
It would really help, and we've been trying to do that for years, and it's been rejected. And so we're hoping that this year we can have at least that, so we can, put information on that board. Just like you see at the middle school, there's a board there that they use, right? And we're hoping we can have that in front of Town Hall. I understand your point. I'm not saying it's a bad concept, what you're trying to achieve. We're having this two-way conversation here. We'd have to explore that a little bit more. I'm not saying it's a bad we've never
No,
explored.
it doesn't sound like you're saying it's a bad idea. There are logistics, and I understand that. People do want to know. They want to feel like they understand what they're voting for. It's hard to vote for something that you don't know what you're voting for.
Well, so, so I think to be clear, right? You've asked some questions tonight, you've gotten the answers that you need. When you come to the town meeting, you'll be able to ask, you don't get there and say, this, you gotta vote, you don't get to ask questions. You'll be able to ask those questions at the town meeting so that people can be educated. And so if you don't understand what you're voting on, you can ask that question, and those questions will be answered, and then you'll be informed to make those decisions.
Hold on. There's too much writing. I think I'm done with that topic. There's only two more. Have you ever had a Meet the Candidates event? We're also going to be asked to vote on a ballot. I'm reading names, I don't even know who those people are. Well, I know who you guys are now because I've done some homework. But I don't know who the people are who are running, and neither do the rest of the people who are going to come and vote on the 10th. And that being said, I knew what else I wanted to say. So when I went to look for the meeting on the website, and I'm pretty good at finding information, it was very confusing because, and I have a picture of it, it says annual town meeting, and then it says June 10th. And that's a little thing that you can click on that. It's a hyperlink. If you don't click on that and read all the information in it, you don't realize that the town meeting isn't the 10th. That's when you're voting for people and for the school budget. You have to click on that link, and you have to go in there, and you have to read it. I'm not saying it's misleading. I'm just saying it's confusing. When a person sees a heading, and then they see the date, if they just are rushing and they don't go into the text, they don't realize that June 10th is when they're voting, and the town meeting is the 14th. I just thought I would bring that up. That's confusing. It was hard to find information on that website, I'm not gonna lie. I asked a question though. Do you ever have a meet the people who are running?
We had one many years ago, probably like 6 years ago. I've been a selectman for 9 years now. That we haven't had a lot of those. That's not something that we kind of organized. The last meet the candidates was organized by some other people that wanted, and there was a large amount of people running. So, I mean, at this point here,
Maybe I should ask it in a different way. Whose responsibility is that? Whose responsibility is it to let the citizenry know who is running for what, other than it being posted? Or isn't it any one entity's responsibility?
Wasn't, when they did that a couple years ago, it was Young Democrats or one of those, a group like that. Buxton Democrats put it on.
You're right.
So
A group put it on.
Okay, so I'm hearing, so from the body language and the answer, I'm hearing that there really isn't any such a thing as a entity that introduces the citizenry to who is running for office. There's no way to know that unless you see a sign sticking in the road somewhere, or you look at the ballot, but even then, you don't know who's running for what. That's a problem. I want to know who's running for what and who I'm voting for.
Is that on the town website?
The sample ballot is on the website. You can see the names,
No, what I'm
It
talking
says
about.
what position they're running for.
and it says what position they're running for, but there's no introduction to.
That's what I'm talking about, putting that on the website, the introduction.
I did not see that, and I don't know who's.
I'm saying to do that.
Oh, you're saying to do it, have somebody do that. Well, somebody has information.
Just want to kind of follow up on your question. So I met you earlier, so I'm running for selectman. And when I ran for planning board, there was a gentleman that actually came and met me, and there was a article in the paper. This time running, he didn't contact me, nobody did. So as a candidate, it's just one of those things, you just gotta get your name out there. I've been trying to meet people, talk to more people. It's on the candidate as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
that's how I
That's
would
really, I mean, and then, like I said, I mean,
Okay.
if somebody called, I was actually expecting a phone call this, again, to say, hey, you wanna, talk to me some more?
Reach out to a candidate when you don't know who's running, like you don't.
Well, I understand that, 100%. These gentlemen have been on the board for a while, so they are well-known in the town. I mean, if you come to the meetings, that's when you really start to know who the board is, whether it's the select board or the planning board, right? I mean, that's really what people have to do, is come to the meeting so you can kind of familiarize yourself. But after the fact, they've already been voted on, right? But myself, I'm trying to meet more people and introduce myself to the community more. So I'm not sure how, or what they would say, how they did it at their time of running.
That dovetails with my last question.
You gotta go to the mic, though, I'm so sorry, Deb.
We'll switch.
That dovetails with my last question. It says, I've watched in order a lot of your board meetings, and I hear over and over and over again, community engagement is hard, that it's hard to get people involved. I'm guilty of that too. I'm here for the first night, and that's why I'm asking the questions, because I want to understand how it works. I looked at your YouTube videos that you post. For example, the one that was posted on April 30th, or for April 30th, 2025, it was SAD6 budget info. It was excellent, by the way. There were only 80 views on that YouTube, on that video, out of 8,000 people who live in this town. That's not good, because I don't have a solution. I'm just saying, yeah, you can interrupt. And I want to know what warrant it is for your sign, because I love that idea. I need to know what one that is. I want to vote on that one.
I agree with you 100%. 80 people, 80 views out of 8,000, that's all on the townspeople. I'm sorry to say.
No,
But it's on the townspeople not participating in the town. I myself did it for years. I didn't participate in the town. I've started to, right? You're starting to. This is her first meeting, right? I mean, the more people that come out, the more that people will be educated on it. But ideally, it's the townspeople that have to take the initiative and watch these, show up. They have to speak about it.
Can I
Yeah, go
join
right
you?
ahead.
You don't
Yeah.
have to
No,
step
no,
away.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Part of the reason why I started coming is because I started to get very concerned, upset. When I talked to you a week or so ago, I thank you for calling me right back. The comments that are made on social media platforms, I did post the annual meeting, and I try to do it in a very professional way, and I try to encourage involvement, and I try to encourage good questioning. I don't respond to people who say silly things that don't know what they're talking about. You responded to me, thank you very much for doing that. I think that's the only way that you can start to get people to be involved, but a lot of people feel like they're not being listened to. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm not saying that that's your fault. I'm just saying those are the comments. A lot of those comments are, and that's not good.
So just be cautious on
Yeah, I know.
social media, though.
Yes, I am. I mean, I think you saw that it was very respectful.
Right,
You did comment,
yeah,
and I commented back,
right.
and there's not a lot
It
of...
doesn't always work out that way.
No,
though.
that's right. You're right. You're right.
It doesn't always work out that way.
He commented, and I
Yeah, that's
commented
right.
back, and I thanked you publicly.
Anybody else?
Dave Hyman, Buxton. I'm one of the minorities, I guess, because I'm here about every week. Been doing it for, I don't know how many years. As far as the town meeting, The town meeting actually starts on Tuesday for the voting, and then it continues on Saturday. They adjourn after I say adjourn, they continue the meeting till the following Saturday for the rest of the warrant articles. That's why it said that it started on June 10th. It starts that Tuesday, and then,
Now I'm more confused.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna mention that, I just didn't want to confuse you more, but he's absolutely right. The annual town meeting starts on Tuesday.
for the voting.
For the voting,
And it should say that on the website.
and then it continues for the other part of it on Saturday, the 14th.
Secret ballot is on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 10th, and the rest of it is on
Saturday, the 14th.
Saturday, the 14th.
It'd be really cool if it was that clear. Maybe you guys should be putting that on the website instead of whoever's doing it.
Do we have any secret ballot articles this year? Do we have any secret ballot articles this year? I don't think we do.
All the elections, the school board.
Well, the school board, yeah.
Yes, that, we vote for, no, we vote for the budget, and we vote for selectmen, right? Is that right?
Planning board,
School budget.
budget committee.
And last week, I stood up here and said that one of the other towns, somebody stood up and said, are they doing that different this year? And they asked him what, and he said, voting twice on the school budget. They've been doing that since they started the Budget Advisory Committee, and I don't know how long ago that was. That was a long time ago, that they come in here and do a presentation, or they go to each town and do a presentation, and then last week, I knew it was coming up, I forgot it was Thursday night. I was here Wednesday night, it was never announced or anything like that, I forgot all about it. Then Thursday, they have the validation of it up there, and then it goes out to all the towns to vote on it. So, you said it passed unanimously? Up
I
there?
mean, no, that's not
Well,
correct.
I see.
I mean, there was some no votes, but very minimal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which is normally what happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That, but at that meeting, all the amounts are explained. At the town, on the 10th, there's no amount, it's just yes or no.
Yeah, so up there, you could pass, say there was 15 articles, they could vote down 8 of them, and the thing wouldn't pass, and then they would have to go back and, I believe that's the way it is, I'm not 100% sure, they would have to go back and renegotiate, if you will.
They would have to run on last year's budget amount until it's rectified.
Just out of curiosity, it come up, I know Joe said something about they ought to have the sign out here, and I've voiced my opinion because there's nothing on the sign, or very seldom is there anything on the sign. I know there is about the town meeting or something out there now,
It says town meeting.
but the one up at they say that it's not zoned correctly out here. The one up at the middle school, is that zoned correctly?
Yeah, that's a discussion for another night.
I mean, I know they're trying to get them to dim them down, keep them, in the past, when they've had a meeting on them, they're trying to get them so there's not scrolling across, I think, and that one up there, you drive by that at night and
I know what you're talking
it's
about.
blinding
I know.
sometimes. And I was just wondering if it was even in a legal,
That's a good Patty question.
I'm under the impression they did it and
Didn't ask.
never asked for forgiveness.
easier that way. Easier to beg for mercy than it is. Okay.
Thank you.
I have one thing, and I'll make it quick. Why on the 14th? I'm going to be out of town on the 14th. And why, if I had somebody FaceTime, or like, why can't you do like not going to be able to be here? Like, I really want to be here on the 14th to discuss the 300 or whatever that parcel of land next to Timberline. You know, I don't feel like at this time in this world that we should be spending, if we're even having a problem with trash, $350,000 or whatever price that they want to pay for that land. That's not even in the budget, like right now. If we were having a hard time, you know, and we're worried about our taxes already because of costs going up and everything like that, is this really necessary? Why can't they work a better schedule out and stuff like that? And why can't we do an absentee ballot? Or if we FaceTime or have someone, you know, like if you, what's that when you go to someone and they sign something with a witness? What's that
Oh,
called?
like a power of
Proxy.
attorney, or?
Yeah, power of attorney, not power of attorney, proxy or whatever, like, you go to someone, what is that? Like, they have to sign a paper, say it's legal, you know? Notary public. Why can't you have a notary public saying, this is going to, just for that vote, you know? They're gonna vote for me as well, because I really wanna be voting on this, but I'm gonna be out of town. So I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to do that.
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you. You know what I mean? That would be more of a legal question more than anything
Right,
else.
I understand that, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that it's frustrating where, because I get up early in the morning for work and I come home late, and I'm not able to always come to these meetings, and my schedule for my work does not give me a Saturday day off, even if I was on vacation. I can't just say to my work, hey, I'm gonna be gone for a couple hours. That's not gonna be copacetic. So it just makes it hard for people who want to vote, to vote. And
I think you're gonna find there's some legalities with Zoom and such as that for voting and.
they're gonna say, well, that AI, that, they made that person.
Well, it gets in a whole different.
But I'm just
yeah,
saying is
yeah,
that it's a
this-
waste of money. What else are they gonna have to do? They're gonna have to mow the lawn, they're gonna have to put protection for the kids, they're gonna, what's the interest rate, this, that, and the other. I wasn't at that meeting and I didn't listen to it. I'm a very busy person, you know. I'm here too, for 4 elderly neighbors, to listen to what's going on, to help them, you know, and I'm gonna be very biased with it. I'm gonna be like, this is your information, this is the information. I'm on both sides, I'm still having a hard time, but you take what I'm giving to you. That's why I've asked, you know, to clarify. But it makes it very hard to be able to vote when your schedule is restricted either by work or you're gonna be out of town. And that's flustering.
David,
I told you I get texts out when I'm sitting out in the audience, and that was one. As far as the candidates night, they've had a few of them, and usually somebody sponsors them, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. Was it Earl Levitt, I think, used to moderate them, the ones that I can remember. I don't know whether Dana did any of them or not, but somebody usually sponsors them. A group, an organization, or something like that. That's what they've done in the past anyways.
thank you. Anybody else? Seeing nothing, I will call for an adjournment at 8:46.
So moved.
All those in favor? That's 4, with 1 absent. Everybody have a safe Memorial weekend and enjoy yourselves. Thank you for coming.